Welcome to Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk. This program is an outpouring of the ministry going on at Calvary Chapel Chambersburg in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Here's what's coming up in today's message.
He's looking at the lion that's been dead for a while because he's been courting the girl, going back and forth, right? He's looking at the dead lion. Oh, look, bees got all involved there and created some honey for themselves. As he's looking at this lion, this is what you need to think about. The godly person says, I have a Nazirite vow. I can't touch that carcass. But the flesh says, that's some tasty honey. It's as clear of a choice as you can get. And that's what this lion represents. It represents, am I going to live for the spirit or am I going to live for the flesh? And he doesn't even give a second thought. He just dives in and gets the honey.
Today, we pick up at the end of Judges chapter 13 and move into the early days of Samson's calling in chapter 14. Samson is born according to God's promise, and the Spirit of the Lord begins to stir him. But instead of running towards his calling, Samson runs towards compromise. He demands a Philistine wife and touches the carcass of a lion, breaking his Nazirite vow in silence. Out of that compromise comes a riddle, and out of that riddle comes conflict. Let us join Pastor Dan in Judges chapter 13 as he continues his message. Samson chose to live for lust.
You ever feel like that way sometimes serving the Lord? You feel like, oh, this is over my head. And you could start to feel like Manoah, like, I'm going to die. This isn't going to work. And then you have to remind yourself, no, wait a second. We're servants of the Lord. He's protecting us. We're worshiping him. He's our shield. He's our strength. And to have the faith of Manoah's wife, it's powerful stuff. And she says, wait a second. He's already told us he has a plan for us. God has a plan for us. He's not going to allow you to go until it's your time. I mean, that's another level of faith, right? When God takes that fear away, like, I'm in the hands of God, whatever God wants to do. I see that represented here in Manoah's wife. That, well, no, God said he's got a plan for us. So until it's our time, And how would that be to live your life for the next, 8 months, 9 months, thinking, I can't die because I'm going to have a baby first. That's kind of interesting, right? Interesting. What great reverence and faith and dedication here. Manoah is a little nervous. And now in verse 24, the woman bare a son and called his name Samson, which means like sunlight. All right, interesting. And it says that the child grew and the Lord blessed him and the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between these two cities of Zorah and Ashtol. And so they name the child. He grows in the Spirit of the Lord. I mean, he is a child set apart to God. You think of John the Baptist and how he leaped in his mother's womb even, filled with the Spirit of God. And here's Samson, the same thing. God's already working in his life. How interesting is that? Now, all this chapter, I really believe the one thing you don't want to miss out of this chapter. Back up for a second. Remember, we're in the book of Judges. We're looking at the deliverance cycle that God's mercy and grace continually comes and gets poured out. And we see the people, not men, the people that God raises up and uses constantly, right? That's the book. And now we have a chapter that's just two people told they're going to have a baby, kind of a miraculous way. And the one thing I don't want you to miss is this sets up the story of Samson. This chapter that's so different than all the other chapters of Judges is here to say, I did everything I could to give Samson everything I could. Don't miss that. That's what we want to say here. God is setting the stage. I have given Samson a background in truth. I have allowed him to be raised by solid Christian parents, right? To use the analogy. I've done everything I can for this child so that he knows me and he has my knowledge. That's the thing to not miss from this chapter. I want to compare him, this Samson, to somebody else in the scripture because Jacob of old, you think of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Raised in this family that the promises of God came to Abraham. Do you remember as we went through Genesis, the promises that were given to Abraham, unlike any other time? I mean, the covenant of Noah, you think of that, you think of all of the other covenants that God ever made. Think of the covenant with Abraham. I'm going to give you people through your lineage. I'm going to give them a land. And I'm ultimately going to do all this to bring the Messiah through you, Abraham. And that was passed down from Abraham to Isaac and then to Jacob. And so to be raised in this mode, to be raised in that environment, the promises of God are on you, young man, as you're being raised. Can you imagine? And Jacob was himself raised in a similar type of environment to be told there's a plan on your entire life from beginning to end. Jacob, like Samson, was raised in this spirit of truth. And yet, we're going to see that both of them had super similar flesh problems, right? I mean, you think of like every bratty church kid you've ever seen, right? They have the perfect parents. And you're looking at this kid like, why are you like this? Your parents are saints. Why are you like this, right? And that's the way you would look at a Jacob. That's the way you would look at a Samson. You would say, what's going on with you, boy? And yet, I want you to think about the stories of these two men as we go through, because they both had that kind of similar upbringing. Let's go to chapter 14. It brings us to our second point. And so I just kind of set up chapter 13 with the stage of Samson's life. And the first stage in the carnal Christian life is the fact that there's knowledge there. There is knowledge there. There's a background of truth. There's a background of knowing who God is, knowing what is right. That's there. But now as we go into chapter 14, the second stage of a carnal Christian is the idea that they're drawn away by their own lusts. And that's really the heart of where we're going with this. And now in chapter 14, we're going to see Samson as an adult. If I have said the word Samuel instead of Samson all through this, I apologize. I may continue to say Samuel a couple times. I'm trying to say Samson, okay? So when you have a son named Samuel and you're trying to do a passage on Samson, it's going to happen sometimes. Okay, so chapter 14, let's continue to now look at Samson. Samson went down to the town of Timnath, and he saw a woman of Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. This whole chapter, 14, is going to show us Samson's marriage and divorce, really. He leaves it. He abandons her at the end. This is not Delilah that we're going to be talking about. If you already are thinking ahead of Samson and Delilah, this is not Delilah that he marries. This is a woman who remains unnamed that he marries and then abandons. And so with this background of Jewish culture, Jewish belief, the law of God, don't marry foreigners because they don't know God. They're going to draw your hearts away. With all of that background that Samson's raised with, he still goes to the Philistines and says, ooh, look at that girl. I want her to marry her. Now, Timnath, this town, is only 4 miles away from where he grew up along the Mediterranean in Zorah. So I'm sure just commuting around, he sees this Philistine girl and he wants to marry her. Verse 2, came to pass, he came up and he told his father and his mother, and he said, I've seen a woman of Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, is there never a woman among the daughters of your brethren or among all my people? So he's saying, isn't there somebody of the tribe of Dan that you want to marry? Or at least among all of Israel? There's got to be somebody that you may go and take a wife. Why would you go and take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, get her for me. All I can think of is that girl in Willy Wonka. I want it now, right? For she pleases me. I want it now. Didn't she turn blue and float away, I think? He's not going to turn blue. Don't worry. Was that the one? No? Okay. Thank you. She went down the chute. So verse 4, but his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So God has commanded to only marry within Israel, and there's just spite. Samson doesn't care about the plan of God, the will of God. He's clearly raised with wanting to do in his own mind, to want to do his own thing. And that's his desire. That's his own free will choice. His parents even push back, like, you're a grown man, but we're going to try to give you some advice. Bad plan. And he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. And God allows Samson, it says, to go down this evil road. I want you to think about it this way. God doesn't make someone sin, but we're going to see throughout the life of Samson that God knows how to use a sinner sinlessly. God orchestrates life together in such a way that he can even take sinful people and use us. Isn't that amazing? So when you think about that in Samson's life and you say, I can't believe God would use a sinner like Samson. He uses a sinner like me and you. We're just sinners in different ways, right? So I'm grateful that God can still work in the lives of sinners because that gives me hope that he's got something for me that I can do for him. So God doesn't use Samson because he's sinful. God uses Samson in spite of his sin. But think, surely God would do greater things in Samson's life if he would just shed the sin, let it go, and live for God. You just got to imagine what could Samson have done for God had he not been so encumbered by his own flesh, right? This James chapter 1 passage, it's really, I think, when you think of Samson, this might be a good one right here to think about. James chapter 1 is verse 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust. The devil made me do it. No, of your own lust, of my own lust, and enticed. Then when lust is conceived, it brings forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, it brings forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Did you notice it's putting two things against each other? When you sin because you're drawn away of your own lusts, but if you don't let that happen, then every good and perfect gift it's like God's shower is right here, but when I'm drawn away of my own lusts, it just leads to sin and death, and I'm no longer being showered by every good and perfect gift that comes down from God. Right? Of his own will, he begot us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creation. When I read that, I always think of Samson. How true is it? He was led away of his own lust his whole life. And now continue here, chapter 14, it's verse 5. And it says, Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother to Timnath, and they came to the vineyards of Timnath. And behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he ripped him as he would have ripped a young goat. And he had nothing in his hands, but he told not his father and mother what he had done. Not that he was necessarily hiding it, he just didn't tell them. There's no sin involved with dealing with this animal in self-defense. There's no sin here. Verse 7, he went down and he talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time, he returned to take her. So they're dating, they're courting. He returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And in verse 9, he took thereof in his hand, and he went on eating, and he came to his father and his mother, and he gave it to them. And they did eat. But he didn't tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So number one, before we get into the whole animal and the carcass and the honey and stuff, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Okay? It's one of the first indications that God is with him. God gave him the ability to get rid of this threat that could have killed him even. And so God's with him, and God helped him. God's got a plan for him. God's giving him mercy and chances, right? God's with him and killing of the animal. But this story of him killing the animal and the Spirit of the Lord coming upon him, it's here to set the stage for what we're about to read. So there's nothing super critical about him killing the lion other than the fact that he's going to use this story at his wedding coming up. Okay? But what we need to know is that when he dipped into the lion to get the honey, he broke the Nazirite vow. Because he shouldn't be touching a dead carcass. And so again, just the disrespect that this is what you need to see. He's looking at the lion that's been dead for a while because he's been courting the girl going back and forth, right? He's looking at the dead lion. Oh, look, bees got all involved there and created some honey for themselves. As he's looking at this lion, this is what you need to think about. The godly person says, I have a Nazirite vow. I can't touch that carcass. But the flesh says, that's some tasty honey. It's as clear of a choice as you can get And that's what this lion represents. It represents, am I going to live for the spirit or am I going to live for the flesh? And he doesn't even give a second thought. He just dives in and gets the honey. Again, drawn away of his own lusts and enticed, right? You got to wonder, did he even pause? He just had the Spirit of the Lord come upon him, a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago, when he killed the lion? And so clearly he was in the Spirit at that moment, right? And now here he is, and he sees it later on, and he's like, did it even cross his mind, like, whoa, I have a Nazirite vow, I shouldn't touch that? Or did he just immediately go in the flesh and say, look at that honey, and go at it? We face the same thing, don't we? We face the same thing all the time. Everything we see in life, we're faced with a decision. Am I going to approach this spiritually or am I going to approach this in the flesh? And I just wonder, how many opportunities do we not even see? How many people come through our lives that maybe we should think spiritually about? Lord, how can I interact with them, Lord? But instead, maybe we're just thinking, how can I use them? How can I gain an advantage somehow? How can I get my needs met through this person? It's so interesting, right? The difference between the spirit man and the flesh is pictured all through here. This is a violation of the Nazirite vow, and all just to fill his belly. Belly lust. Let's keep going. Verse 10. Now the story, it was here because he's going to use this at his wedding here now in verse 10. So in verse 10, so his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. They made a feast during their weddings. And in verse 11, it came to pass that when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. It's a feast, it's a wedding, it's a joyous occasion, right? People are lighthearted and things are happening, lots of people. And Samson says, I'm going to put forth a riddle to you. If you can certainly declare it unto me within 7 days of the feast, find it out, then I will give unto you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. But if you can't declare it to me, then shall you give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. And they said unto him, do it, put forth your riddle, that we may hear it. And he said unto them, and here's the riddle, out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. Now, let me just break it down in case you missed the riddle, okay? We won't save it till the end. Let's just say it. Okay, out of the eater came forth meat. The eater is the lion, because the lion eats things, right? Out of the eater, the lion, came forth meat or food, is what it means. And then the second half of the riddle is out of the strong, because lions are strong, came forth sweetness, because of the honey, when the bees got in there and made honey. So that's the riddle, right? To finish verse 14, and they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. Now, I don't know why you'd ever agree to say that you could figure out a riddle. I mean, my goodness, so many possibilities. They were up to the challenge, and this is why we got the story earlier about Samson killing the lion. Number one, to show us his disrespect of the law of God. He was interested in himself. But number two, because he's going to use it here at his wedding. But it's all about Samson's cocky pride. Picture that. Okay, it's his wedding. It's his wedding. He's trying to boast in front of people and to his own gain. I mean, today maybe we would tell a riddle just to be like, I got one over on you. He's like, no, I'm going to get something out of this. I'm going to get stuff out of this. This is not just playing games, but this is serious cockiness leading to profit and gain and selfishness. It's not pretty. It may look fun at first. Maybe everybody's laughing and smiling at this point, right? First day of the wedding, oh, good riddle. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, everybody's laughing. They're not going to be laughing at the 7-day mark, I could tell you that. Because that's where sin takes you. That's where it always takes you. Verse 15. It came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, entreat thy husband that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire. Have you called us here to take that which we have? Is it not so? And so they're mad going into day 7 of the feast. They're like, man, he's going to take our stuff because we agreed to this riddle. And these Philistines come and they press on Samson's new bride to say, you got to go get to Samson and force it out of him what this riddle is. Or they're literally threatening her and her family to burn them down. This is no longer fun and games. If you weren't sure if this was fun and games or not, it's not. It's prideful. It's lustful. It's selfishness. It's ugly. And it's leading to contention. right? Now, verse 16. Verse 16. Samson's wife wept before him and said, "You do but hate me. You don't love me. You have put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and you have not told it to me." And he said to her, "Behold, I haven't even told my mother and father. How should I tell you?" And she wept before him 7 days, all 7 days of the feast, while their feast lasted. And it came to pass on the seventh day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him. And she told the riddle to the children of her people, because she lay sore upon him. See, if you're a person of courage and conviction, you stand on what's right and you don't fold just because temptation comes. As she continued to press on him, he folded. He folded. All she had to do was bat her eyes a few more times, and he folded. The emotion and the convincing of a woman prods a man often to forfeit many things. Just again demonstrates he's not living a life of conviction. He's living a life of convenience, of whatever happens to make him happy in the moment. There was probably that one day that she finally came and she had another twinkle in her eye, and he just said, "All right, I'll tell you." Just, do you see it? There's no conviction here in his life. There's not a standard of principle that he's living by. It's just whatever happens to work in any given day. Verse 18. And so now she told it to the Philistines, and now it's going to be trouble. Verse 18. The men of the city said unto him on the seventh day, before the sun went down, "Oh, here's the riddle. What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" They got it. And so he responded to them, and he said, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle." And even there, I mean, that's rude. I mean, we could put that into modern language, and then we'd have to plug the kids' ears. Okay, he's being rude back to them. It's basically saying, you were involved with my wife in ways you shouldn't have been, and that's how you got this out of her. Verse 19, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and again, did you notice that right there? The Spirit of the Lord came upon him. All that he's been doing has been in the flesh. All of this is just cockiness and pride, right? But then here in verse 19, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, that's a Philistine city, and he slew 30 men of them, and took their stuff, their spoil, and gave changes of garments unto them which expounded the riddle, because he owed it to them, right? If you get my riddle, I owe you 30 sheets and 30 garments. So instead of him going to his house or to the store, he went down to a Philistine city and slaughtered a bunch of Philistines, got their stuff and gave it to him to pay off his debt. If you didn't think that this was serious before, now you get it, right? And so he took their spoil and gave change of garments unto them, which expounded the riddle, and his anger was kindled, and he went up into his father's house. That means he left Timnath and went back home to Zorah, 4 miles away. And in verse 20, Samson's wife was given to his companion, who he had used as his friend, or the best man at the wedding. So Samson's unnamed wife becomes the wife of his best man at the wedding. But we're going to find out in a minute, he didn't know that. Because remember, Samson left. He went to Ashkelon, destroyed a bunch of Philistines, took their stuff, paid his debt, and left and went home. He didn't even take his wife with him after the feast. And so we find out that she later gets married off to his best man. So his anger here comes up. But the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. And I'll say this, I think, later on as well. But remember, we've discussed this all the way through the book of Joshua and Judges. It is God's declared will that all of these Canaanites and Philistines in the land, judgment is upon them, and it is time, in accordance with God's will, to take them out.
That's all the time we have today on Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk. From Samson's miraculous birth to his reckless choices, we're reminded that calling alone doesn't make someone faithful. It's the daily walk with God that shapes true strength. Samson gave a riddle about sweet honey from a dead lion, but the real mystery is how a holy God can bring out good out of a flawed person, and that answer is Jesus. Unlike Samson, Jesus never strayed from his vow, never served himself, and never used his strength for show. He came to save, and he did it perfectly. If today's message has encouraged you, we would love to hear from you. You can call us at 717-500-1102 Again, that phone number is 717-500-1102, or you can visit cchambersburg.org. If you're in the Chambersburg, Pennsylvania area, we would love to have you come join us in person in our new and expanded location. That location is 5121 Coffee Avenue, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, 17201. Service times and directions are available online at cchambersburg.org. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to having you join us next time as Pastor Dan continues his teaching through the book of Judges and our look at Samson's life. This has been Believe in the Word with Pastor Dan Shunk.